I got a haircut and they kind of fucked up on the side, so now I look like I just have some pubes hanging out from the side. It's gonna probably fix a little bit, but that's a real bummer. Hey everyone, it's UA from the Strictly Broken YouTube channel, and today I am going to react to the Clan Selection Volume 2 Pale Moon spoilers. And I felt like I had to do this because, as I brand myself as this like Pale Moon simp, it just seems right to react to the cards. And I do have quite a bit of knowledge on, the Nightmare Doll deck that already exists in Standard. So I do have a little bit of perspective on that, as well as Premium. Now I play a lot of Premium Pale Moon, and not all of these cards are that Premium playable, but I'm looking at the grade 2 super busted card. Anyways, the grade 3, what's it called? Nightmare Doll Chelsea. At the end of the battle, it attack cost counterblast 1, call up to 2 Workroid from your soul to rear. If your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, those you called units get power 10 plus 10k until the end of the turn. Auto on rear. At the end of the battle that it attacked, if your Vanguard is a Workroid cost, put this card into soul. Choose up to one of your opponent's rear guards, and your opponent puts that unit into his or her soul. So I don't think this card is that premium playable. I want to make that abundantly clear. Like, grade 3s that are premium playable, effective, should always have some kind of skill that can be used on a ride, like as a ride skill or a third rear guard skill, but just a unit that is primarily like a Vanguard centric multi-attacking card. It's not that premium playable, I think. The fact that it can actually suck up units and deny your opponent's resources is cool, but Pale Moon already has quite a few of those cards, so I'm not sure if this is going to be that premium playable. There is a stride, I forgot the name, but it basically does something where it can de-stride itself into and back into a grade 3. So you go back into a copy of Carol, and then Carol can go into this, and you can do like quite a few more multi attacks. But it's probably just still weaker than like using it as a Nightmare Doll, just going to Hari in a Nightmare Doll based deck and just calling 2 units. But you do gain, how many more swings do you gain with that? You gain 1 from the Vanguard, 2 3. You get 3 more swings for going to that stride. So maybe it's worth it. That's kind of neat actually. So maybe there's some kind of Nightmare Doll-esque thing you can do with this grade 3. Standard though, I mean, just talking about this card at its core, it's fantastic for how it interacts with Carol. Like, I'm bringing it up with Premium, and just the way this card interacts with Carol is like much needed. It can go to Soul for no CB, so like the Nightmare Doll deck originally struggled with just very expensive CB turns, because you have to go something like Carol swing and then Alice swing, pay CB to suck it into Soul, call something out, and then you can trigger Carol's effect to pay CB to restand it, do the whole Carol shenanigans. That was a pain in the ass. This card doesn't need CB, and it can put itself to Soul, so a grade 3 is going to Soul. You can proc Carol, and then Carol can ride into this. And now, when you ride into this, it's really cool that you can go swing with this new card. What's it called again? Chelsea. Swing with the Chelsea, and then end up, if you have 2 Chelseas, they can both go to Soul, and you can immediately use Carol to ride out Chelsea, and then use Chelsea to call 2 cards, which could be Chelsea. So if you call out Chelsea, then you get that to, I said Chelsea a lot in that sentence. That's hilarious. You can put more of your opponent's rear guards into Soul. So you can basically play a kind of resource denial game plan. I'm looking at decks like those Excel decks that have a bunch of rear guards that have trouble maybe replenishing them later in the game. You can just do a lot of Chelsea. You can do a bunch of Chelsea swings in one turn and just pick apart your opponent's whole board. And that's pretty neat, to be honest. I think resource denial maybe is a bit undervalued in V Premium Standard Vanguard, and this card, I mean, in an optimal turn, this card can suck up 4 to 5 cards. Like, if you have the 3 Chelseas and you're just swinging and swinging and swinging, you can actually suck up 5 rear guards. So that, even against a force deck that has like a full board, you're just nuking their whole board basically. Pretty neat. And I would even argue nuking their whole board and it not being like a suboptimal play. Sometimes you would be able to nuke your opponent's board, but you're not doing something else proactive. You're actually doing basically your full Chelsea combo and nuking 5 cards off their field. So pretty neat in Standard. Pretty cool in Nightmare Doll Premium with the strat is called Beatrix. Yeah, Beatrix into Carol into this. You get like quite a few number of multi-attacks off. It's pretty cool. The grade 2. Auto Vanguard Vanguard rearguard when placed from hand cost hand. Unfortunately, hand. You guys all complain Bushiroad is not, thinking about design. Like when the Pale Moon cards have a place from hand, they're at least thinking about premium a little bit. So when placed from hand, cost, put a card from your hand into your soul. Look at 7 cards from the top of your deck. Reveal up to 2 non-grade 2 Workroid normal units from among them and put them into your hand. Shuffle your deck. Right off the bat, they limited to non-grade 2 Workroids. Pretty interesting that you can't go this card into 2 more of this card and just like pop the balls off. Like it would just go crazy mode. You'd plus so much if you go this into 2 copies. Keep on going. But it's a card that's not tied to CB. It's a card that cantrips that isn't tied to CB. That is absolutely amazing. For standard, first of all, the Nightmare Doll deck, like I said, is really CB heavy. And, sometimes you just don't have, like, 2 CBs on the grade 2 turn. And this card just doesn't need CB to do its plussing. That's super great. And, like, that's even more amazing for, like, premium. Premium, the CB is, like, a huge resource for your kill turns, for your pressure turns. Not needing to use CB, like in current Harry, Alice, Leslie loop deck, this card can not only find your pieces at a plus value. Some cards can find pieces, but they go 1 for 1. This card pluses, finds you pieces, doesn't cost CB, sets you up for late game. This card is absolutely bonkers. The only thing that would make it more broken is if its effect could be used from Soul. That would just put this card right off the charts. Unfortunately, they had their thinking cap on, and that is not going to happen. But regardless, this card is absolutely insane. They actually thought about this quite hard, right? They limited the 2 ways this card can be abused. The fact that this card could maybe grab itself, and the fact that it can't be abused with soul recouping like with premium cards. So good on them for thinking ahead of the game. But unfortunate that we can't do some crazy broken stuff with this card. Let me get this name real quick. A Nightmare Doll Marissa. And the third card is this grade 1 Nightmare Doll Abigail. Auto Vanguard circle when placed, soul charge 1. So it's, random effect. That's pretty cool. At the end of your turn, cost retire this unit. Return a grade 3 Workroid from your soul to your hand. And if your Vanguard is a Workroid, countercharge 1. So, countercharge, much needed countercharge. Like I said, the Nightmare Doll deck, if you play it, the play patterns, I don't think the deck is not going to play Alice anymore. It's still going to play 1 or 2 copies. It's going to play the Chelseas, of course. It's going to play the Carols. The turns are super CB heavy. You basically in a turn, if you didn't have like a countercharger, you're capped at using like your combo like once or twice, even sometimes once. If you want to do like a full combo, you're using 4 CB sometimes. So just having a countercharger so this card, it boosts on the field. It's a countercharger. It adds a Carol back to your hand. That's another important thing. Because when you go Carol into Chelsea, this new card, your Carol is now under. Next turn, if you don't ride a Carol, you're limiting your explosive potential because you can't do another Vanguard swing. This card can add the Carol back to hand. So all these cards very clearly for standard interact well with Carol. They're all trying to enable the Carol more because pre-Clan Selection Volume 2, that deck just had a lot of consistency issues with making Carol like as consistent as it can be. So this card is super, super good for that. Gives you that CB that needed, the much needed counter charge to the following turn. You can definitely do as strong of a turn as your first grade 3 turn. For premium, I don't see this card doing that much. I think end of the turn counter charging in premium is like agency that is. The agency on that kind of effect is way too late. You want proactive counter charges, and you really have to be better than the counter charging stand that Pale Moon has access to, which is just on demand counter charge. You can call it back out from soul, counter charge some more of that card. If you have it in hand and you have some pieces, you can usually counter charge your entire damage off of just that one card. So premium, not very viable. Standard, super good for the Nightmare Doll strategy. Probably not that splashable in any of the other decks. I also want to finally mention that the grade 2, before I forget, is also splashable in the standard Hari deck as well. All the Mega dolls are Workroids. You can get them off of the Marissa. And not only that, this card also puts your Pigeon into Soul. So now you can, before I made a deck profile, I was like, I didn't really like the Alice combo Hari deck in standard / V premium. Now when this card exists, you can consistently get your Alice. You can set up the Pigeon and Soul, and for no CB cost. Regardless, with that being said, I don't think the Hari deck's that good. There are way better decks in V premium. Hari is a little bit lacking in deck like speed and aggression. So yeah, in terms of like the Nightmare Doll for that meta, for that format, V premium / standard, Nightmare Doll looks pretty good. I haven't tested with the cards, But I see the lines, like as mentioned, the Carol lines seem to be quite consistent with these cards. You know, your grade 2 is finding you every piece you need for your combos. Should be happening. And, you know, when you ride Carol, you can also just find the Chelsea. So I think the deck's going to be very smooth. Now, V Premium has some very strong decks. Like, as I keep mentioning, I'm not sure if this one-ups them, but the pieces interact. You know, a good recipe for success in a deck is when the pieces interact as well as these cards do with the existing support. Nightmare Dolls definitely is looking really consistent. If the strategy is powerful enough, that's a different question, but at least you know you're doing that strategy like every single game. And yeah, that's it for this video. Thank you for tuning in. Hopefully you appreciated some of my insights on these cards. It's a little bit all over the place, but that's okay. I'm just excited to be playing them in V Premium and Premium. Thank you all for watching. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. It's UA signing off. Peace.